Okay, we are live again. And I think actually this is the first live stream of 2026. So Happy New Year to you. We're going to get into the whole mess about Venezuela. And full disclaimer, as they say, I'm not an expert on geopolitical topics. And I think also that most of the people who have very strong opinions about this, they are neither are. And thank you, YouTube, for cutting the connection there just as we were beginning. Isn't it wonderful how this works? It can make you quite paranoid, actually, because it seems to happen whenever I talk about somewhat sensitive topics. But maybe I'm just being paranoid. So, yeah, we will, you know what? I can, if I have the energy for it later today, I can cut out the beginning there. So I'll just start over again. Yeah, so we're going to talk about USA seizing Venezuela in a wider context. And I think that it's obvious that they are lying about the reason. I think that's very obvious. Now, as I said before, the connection got unstable. I'm not an expert on geopolitical topics, and also I think that most of the people who seem to have very strong opinions on this, they are not experts on these topics either. But we can guess and we can apply some common sense. Now, I'm going to say it before the connection is cut. It's about the petrodollar. It's quite obvious. And we're going to get more into that and look at the whole new America First Imperialism. Because it's interesting, isn't it? Now, first of all, KP Hidden, good to see you. Austin, Mr. Sorpos, Kat, Daniel is here. Green-eyed lady, Uval, he's, yes, you are correct. Now, first things first. It's you know what? I'll just look up what the charges are. Hold on a little bit, so that we get it right. Because I think that it was correct, it was good to grab this criminal Venezuela who was an illegitimate. Well, he shouldn't. What's illegitimate? Excuse my Norwenglish here. He shouldn't have been president because he was not. That's not the one who the people voted for. He's a criminal. He's probably very involved in the drug trafficking to abroad. I think that's obvious. He's been charged with a number of crimes now, including narco terrorism. I don't know what that is, but he's a thug. He's a thug. So it's good that they got him, and I hope that he spends the rest of his life in prison. But there needs to be a proper and fair legal process there, obviously. Now, but that's not the reason why the USA attacked Venezuela. they have not, at least not yet, um, even said that they want a regime change. And it's the vice president who's in charge there. Well, it's a marionette. Do you say that in English? Marionette government. They're basically just puppets uh, with strings attached to the Pentagon. Puppet government. Yeah. Um, so good that they got him out, and I honestly think that even though most of or a lot of those video clips that were circulated on social media about Venezuelans celebrating, a lot of that was fake actually. But I don't doubt that they celebrate now. Of course, they will be better off, obviously. Um, I mean, they were under the iron heel of a dictator. Um, so yeah. But so that let's get that out of the way. It was good that they got him, but that was not the reason. Because if that was the reason, I mean, there are many other evil regimes, and it seems like Trump and his cronies, they have no problems with rubbing shoulders with and being friendly with the Saudis and all of these unelected rulers of Muslim countries. Seems to be fine. I mean, and we're talking about regimes that are quite cruel. It doesn't, mainstream media doesn't really write about that anymore. Isn't it funny how it works? But they cut people's heads off. Honestly, it's like, yeah. So it's obvious that what seems to have happened there was that the Chinese got a little bit too friendly with the Maduro regime. I think it was just a couple of days before the USA attacked Venezuela. One of the Chinese officials were in Venezuela, and what the USA really, really needs and what they are dependent on is that oil is connected to the dollar. The USA has not a very strong economy. It's not going in the right direction. So they need to dominate the petrol markets. At least the way I understand it, that's basically probably the reason why they went in there. And Venezuela is, of course, one of the richest countries on the planet when it comes to natural resources. So it's about the simple reason is it's about oil. It's always about oil, with the USA. So yeah, but we need to look at, and I think that this shouldn't be a topic for discussion even. And metals and rare minerals and all of that. And a lot of people think that some people think that I'm being stupid now because I say this, but because it should be obvious. Please be a little bit more respectful in the chat because I do this practically for free. So you can come here and don't come here and be like that. I will just ban people from the channel because I don't have time for that. Now, I think Venezuela is a simple case. But the more interesting aspect of this is how the USA, the government in the USA, seems to be looking at the world in a very different way from what they used to do. Now they are talking again about Greenland. And we have people high up in the ranks of power saying things like nobody wants to fight the USA. And that is a might is right attitude. And when a country starts talking like that, when its officials start talking like that, you're not really dealing with um, you're not really dealing with a good, decent government anymore. When we're in the might is right attitude, when we are there, um, you have to communicate with them in a very different way. Is the USA mighty? Yes. Would it win a war against the rest of the NATO countries? Probably not. If you look at the resources, the military resources, but that will never happen. Well, hopefully, it will never happen. It is foolish to even talk about such things. And it is very, very foolish of Trump and his and the other members of his regime to talk about Greenland as if they need Greenland. And they're also lying quite a lot. And they say that Greenland is a colony. One of these people said Greenland is a colony um, under Denmark. That's not true. So Denmark, they are an autonomous territory. What that means in simple terms is that Greenland can vote, they can have a referendum for independence at any time they want to. And if they vote for independence, they will be a fully independent country. So they gained a so-called home rule in 1979 and the greater self-government in 2009. So they're not a colony. And the idea, another lie, and I don't like this. Now, Greenland is quite central in the identity of us Scandinavians. And I do see some messages here that are to be expected. Please try to behave like adults. I'm not your bro, not your brother. So what seems to be the case here with Greenland, it's again very obvious. It is somewhat similar to Venezuela. The difference is, of course, that you don't have a drug lord running the country, obviously, but it's about resources. It's not about military. Um, Denmark and the USA have had a very good collaboration concerning military presence on Greenland and in the waters around Greenland. So that's one thing. Another thing is that I don't think the American public understand Greenland very well, and I don't think that they know the history of Greenland and the identity of the people in Greenland at all. And I think it's very sad because it comes from a place of ignorance. And ignorance has been a trademark of the present government in the USA for a long time. Well, since the election. Well, and before that. Yeah, it's been like that for a long time. It's about resources. Greenland is one of the last one of the last wildernesses on the planet. And I think that under a Trump regime, they will just drill, baby, drill. Isn't that what they're saying? And it will be a catastrophe for the world. So Um, if the moderators can just go and delete the trolls, that would be nice. We are going to get into how Trump and his people are talking in a way that fires up this new American identity thing. And it is interesting because, in a historical context, it's a very well-known trick. So, so Greenland is about resources, natural resources, rare minerals, oil and gas. That's what it's about. Again, the USA needs to dominate the petrol market. If the petrodollar is weakened, the USA will be weakened even further. This is very important to understand. I think that Saddam Hussein actually, short time before the Iraq war, he tried to make deals with, I can't remember which country, but he tried to make deals selling oil going outside of the, not using the dollar. You have to fact check me on that, but and then what happened? It is convenient when these people are thugs. Saddam Hussein was a thug. Maduro is a thug. So we can always use that as an excuse. So so we have a typical comment here that perfectly illustrates what I'm going to talk about now. So thank you, Free Loving. You're saying Denmark losing Greenland is like a kid having his toy taken away that he never cared about before. Okay. Now, again, this is a perfect example of, now I don't know your nationality, but it's a perfect example of ignorance. So, again, let's find the facts here. So, Greenland relies on donations basically from mainland Denmark. And I'm trying to find the yearly amount of money that they let's see here. I can't find the yearly amount. I had it here yesterday. But at least I know that they are planning to increase their spending for Greenland's infrastructure and healthcare. So that's $253 million for the years between 2026 and 2029. So to say that Denmark never cared for Greenland is quite ignorant. It's a small community, and the wilderness there is extremely valuable, much more valuable than the oil and gas it sits upon. This is important to understand. So, now, the attitude, we have another list here. Let's see here. I'm trying to, you'll have to, So the peace president Trump, he has already ordered military strikes in Iran, Iraq, Nigeria, Somalia, Syria, Yemen, Venezuela, And don't forget that civilians were killed when they did that. So in the port there, they killed more than 100 civilians. Um, and and they keep going. Now there are talks, of course, about Cuba, Colombia, and it reflects an attitude about might is right, as I said. Now, combined with this, there seems to be an attitude from the current administration in the USA that the USA is the greatest country on the planet and that everyone wants to come there. Another lie. Another lie. Now, I missed some, there are some more areas that have been threatened. If I forgot or didn't catch that, then I'm sorry. But attitude, but the attitude is that the USA is the greatest country on the planet, and the USA is the mightiest country in the history of mankind. And because of that, they can just take what they want. That attitude is dangerous, and it's dangerous mostly for the people within the country. Because what this really is about is, the USA is not going to attack Greenland. I don't believe that. It's about talking to the voters. It's about deflecting people's mind off of the Epstein list. Isn't that obvious? But people are so easily tricked. And these people, Trump and his people, they're just pulling off one of the oldest tricks in the book. And it works because mainstream media is not talking about Epstein list anymore. They're not talking about all the problems within the USA anymore. They're all talking about this. So, this to me is very obvious. And it's like sometimes I don't know even what to say, because why are people not talking about this? It's like, yeah, we'll get to the chat now and we'll see if we can find some trolls here. So we have a question here from Ben. What is so valuable about its wilderness in Greenland? You know what? I'll let you figure that out for yourself. I can't really, if you have to ask that question, I don't think I can explain it to you. Yeah, Uval, thank you for writing that about Greenland. Yeah. Greenland should go back to its original owner, Norway, of course. Well, yeah, Viking Age history is, of course, interesting if we go back to that time. And so you could actually say that, well, Trump and his people, they have got it all wrong, because the USA and Canada should belong to Greenland, since Leif Erikson was from Greenland, son of Eirik Raude. But you can't talk to the people in the government in the USA. I don't know if they know history very well. It's like, how many people in the Congress think that the Earth is like 5,000 years old? We're not talking about bright people here. So, Storm the Pitbull says, remember Operation Warp Speed. Yeah, that's important too, So, when they talk about attacking another NATO country, it's like, no, you're not going to do that. It would be madness. You would have to be mentally ill to do that. Um, but it's about talking to the voters in the USA now, and I think that this attitude about American imperialism, this belongs to a different time. We're not going to. It's never going to work. No, it's not going to work. Um, but they will keep doing it because it's popular, as we have already seen in the chat. Some comments about that. Um, yeah. We have, of course, China and Russia, bone circuit. Yes. How saying how long will China and Russia put up with the South American crude? I think they will keep up with it. I think they don't really have a big problem with it. They think it's inconvenient. Okay, we are back. We are back. Yeah. So again, I think it's about talking to the voters. I think it's about building up an image of America as being the greatest country on the planet. I will say that, I think America is, at least on my personal list, the USA is very high up on the list. But that's in spite of the people in power there. Um, I think the American people are very nice. And I think that I mean, you have one of the best countries for hiking, lots of wilderness still, you know. So it's not like I don't like the USA. Of course I do. Um, but yeah, hold on. I'll just have a look here at my notes. Um, yeah, we talked about Venezuela. And some talk about Cuba, some talk about Colombia. And they're trying to play, have this image now about we're so tough. We're going to, if you don't do like we say, we're going to attack you. I don't know if that works on these dictators. Um, I don't think that they are scared when they hear that. Um, now, Trump also said about Mexico, about the drug cartels, I believe. We're going to have to do something. He said, we allow Mexico to do it. They're capable of doing it. But unfortunately, the cartels are very strong in Mexico. In early 25, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said she rejected Trump's offer of sending US soldiers to Mexico to help fight the country's cartel groups. Sovereignty is not for sale, she said at the time. And we talked about Greenland. So you see, it's the list of countries that are being threatened by the USA it's quite a list of countries at this point, and that's not a good thing. The USA is being perceived as a bully now. You have to be aware of that. The USA is perceived as a bully, and that's not really a good thing. So, yeah. Another thing that this is deflecting, is that the word? Attention from is Israel, of course. All the money going from the USA to Israel, Israel's killings in Gaza still. Yeah. So yeah, Audrey says Americans annoy me about geography. Rubbish. Alaska 55 miles from Russia. Americans already on Russia borders. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, deflecting is a word. So deflecting, I don't think that actually they do this only to deflect attention from things. Some people say that, oh, it's just a trick. They do things like that when they want to deflect attention from something inconvenient. I don't think, at least not in this case, they are doing it because of that, but they are certainly using it as a deflection, and it works perfectly because the press, mainstream media, and of course alternative media, if we can still call it that, YouTube and so on here, they're all talking about this now, as I am now. So yeah, Netanyahu, Kat, was he at Mar-a-Lago New Year's Eve this year? Yeah, I'm sure he had a nice time there. Let's see here. Let's scroll up a little bit. It's about thwarting China's ambition to rule the world. Yeah, well, that's part of it. Listening with Robster says listening with an open mind. That's good. We should all do that. The voters have no power in the US. The system is corrupt and money talks. Hate to have that outlook, but that is what I see. Yeah. Well, I will add that from the outside, looking at the USA. Now, we talk a lot about the USA now today, but that's because of what has happened. But when we look at the USA from the outside, there are two parts of trade. Any trade has two sides. So someone selling and someone buying, right? And the people buying is in the USA. When it comes to drugs going into the USA, the people buying are in the USA. And I personally believe that the very, very liberal view on narcotics in the USA is the main problem. That's the main problem, because if it was not like that, you wouldn't have the demand, right? But anyway, I wonder why the US does not offer Alaska to Israel. It is part of its territory, has lots of resources. It is not surrounded by enemies, and it was in the original plans. Alaska is northern Patagonia. Really? Oh, okay. Yeah, Alaska is interesting because, why should the USA have Alaska? You could say that, using the same arguments as Trump uses about Greenland. And there are people online saying that, well, Greenland is geographically part of North America. No, it's not. It's geologically part of North America. There's a difference there. But it's not so easy with these difficult words. I know it can be difficult. But when I, as a Norwegian, can say it in the correct way, I think native English speaking people should manage to do that as well. Well, Ben, if you're not against American imperialism, I don't get your comment there, because imperialism is about dominating other countries, other peoples. And I don't want that. We can do a little bit of a test here. Are you for or against imperialism? If you support imperialism, imagine the following. Um, let's say a country like let's take China. China invades the USA, and you now have to rule under Chinese rule. Now, you now have to live, sorry, under Chinese rule. Would you like that? If the answer is no, you are not for imperialism. It is that simple. So Ben says, I'm not Chinese. But they won't care. They won't care. The people in Greenland are not. I don't like to say Americans because well, they're not Americans. um, so yeah. Well, by the way, if you have by some slight chance, by some miracle, stumbled upon this live stream, do consider to subscribe because I'm going to lose. I usually lose about 100 subscribers when I talk about this because it's not so easy to have your sensitive little emotions hurt by some Norwegian guy talking about America. Um, so yeah, that would be nice if you consider subscribing. That would be awesome. Um, Greenlanders are 89% native Inuits, not Danes. Huh, okay. Um, Peter Wolves, thank you for that. Thank you. Ben says, what if this kind of imperialism leads to a path of increased liberty? Well, that's a good thing, of course. And as I said at the beginning of this live stream, obviously, for the people in Venezuela, what happened there is a good thing, all in all. You know, um, they got rid of a dictator. So that's good. And as I said, even though some of the video clips that we have been seeing circulating on social media, they were fake, taken from other. One of them was from celebrating a football match and so on. But I don't doubt that the Venezuelans are celebrating. Also, we need to keep in mind that there has been no regime change in Venezuela. They just got rid of they cut off the head, so to speak. So we will see what happens there. So, yeah. David, yeah, what the heck is going on? What is actually going on? And I don't think that we know fully. And I've always felt that it is so difficult to know for sure when you haven't visited the country, when you haven't been there. You don't really know the conditions there. It's so difficult to sit. I mean, I sit in Norway, the other side of the world almost, and looking at the news and listening to people talking about this, and it's difficult. It's difficult. I might be wrong. Maybe I've been wrong in everything I said here, but I don't think so. It seems to be yeah. It's like, why haven't people, why haven't the USA been back on the moon? Why didn't the USA go back to the moon? Because they didn't find any oil there. Bit of a joke there. Yeah, no oil. Um, yeah. Now, when it comes to, again, Greenland, I think that I think I will say that it's going to, if this continues, you're going to create among Scandinavians a hatred for Americans. I'm sorry to say that, but I think it takes a lot to do that. We're not emotional people. We're not. It takes a lot for us to develop feelings like that. And I will never hate Americans, but I do notice that now that there's been this talk about Greenland again, there's a feeling of contempt among people now. I'm sorry to say that, but that's just how it is. And Americans are generally very much liked when they come here. We have a joke, of course, American tourists and the Chinese ones. They will ask, "Are there polar bears in the streets here?" I don't know if anyone's actually asking about that, but generally speaking, Americans are very popular here and liked. And I think that will continue, but it to us, we get this unfair image presented about of Americans, that they are stupid and they all think that the Earth is 5,000 years old, or flat, and all of that, and so it's not good what's happening now. It's not good, and I think that it's going to, if, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, because I don't think it will happen, but if the USA would invade Greenland, it would be a great loss, net loss for the USA, of course, not only because of the destruction of NATO, which also protects the USA. Imagine if there's this destruction of NATO, all the American military bases in Europe will be gone. And that will have a big impact, and it will isolate the USA to a large extent. So yeah, no, I think people in America, especially their politicians now, they do not understand how important Greenland is in the identity of Scandinavians. I can tell you, it's immensely important to us. Did you know that one of the tests, if you want to be a proper explorer, one of the tests, the most common test, is to walk across Greenland on skis. Did you know that? That's kind of what you do to prove yourself. So, yeah, why Greenland? Why Greenland? Because it's so essential in our identity, and that has to do with our history. So yeah, I hope, as I said, I love the USA. I really do. Now we got I said the flat Earth thing, and then we have someone writing, "It is flat." You know, yeah. But okay, I think I will finish there. Let's with the flat Earth claim. I think that's a good place to stop, to end this and to end this conversation for now. Yeah. Okay. Ahmet Dogan says President Trump wants Greenland for new golf courses because he thinks Greenland is actually green. Yeah. Uh, okay. Yeah, we'll stop there, and we'll get back to maybe some other topic or this one in probably maybe tomorrow. Or we have a lot to talk about with authoritarianism that we are seeing in the EU, seeping into Norway as well. Yeah. So lots of things to talk about. Okay. Wonderful. Have a nice rest of the day or evening, and stay strong.